Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Catholic Spotlight. Joining me today is the Bishop William McGrattan with the Diocese of Calgary, the Roman Catholic Diocese. Thanks for joining us, Bishop.
Thank you, Mario.
Okay, we're going to talk about some sad news that the world and especially the Catholic community worldwide received today, the death of Pope Francis. When you look back at his legacy, what do you think that legacy is going to be, Bishop?
Well, Pope Francis was known to be a pope for the people and among the people. He talked about the role of the bishop of having the smell of the sheep. And so I think many people will, I hope, be thinking and reflecting and maybe giving thanks for the role of a pastor who really had a heart for those who were suffering, those who were on the margins. He also, I think, had a great care for the young that others might not necessarily appreciate, that he really was concerned about young people,
Mm.
wanted to make sure that family life was important and supported by the church. I also think, he was trying to allow the Holy Spirit to bring about needed change in areas around the Curia and the governance of the Catholic Church.
Mhm.
So for some, it has a wide-ranging reflection on, his legacy and the impact. But those are some of my initial thoughts about that. Yeah.
How do you think he changed the church during his tenure?
One of the things is that he was open to acknowledge the faults of the church. So in the area of the sexual abuse of clergy and protecting the vulnerable and especially the young, he was very adamant about that. I think the concern for what we now see as a universal phenomena of migration and immigration of peoples because of socioeconomic and also issues of political instability of countries. I think as well, having participated in the synod, he was hoping for a greater participation of the laity, those who were baptized, to really see that their baptism and their call required greater participation, greater involvement and witness of their faith in society as well.
Hmm.
So those are, I hope, aspects of his legacy as well.
Just curious, did you ever meet him?
Yes, I had a number of opportunities in the last number of years, being the president of the Conference of Catholic Bishops, also involved in, behind the scenes, but helping in the planning of his pilgrimage of reconciliation here to Canada.
Hmm.
As I mentioned, the participation at the synod afforded me opportunities to meet with him. And he was always aware of what was happening, not only in the world, but in the Canadian church, and would often ask, very practical, very pastoral questions of how the bishops were doing, what were the issues after his visit. All of that sort of spoke to me that he was very current and interested in the life of the church here in Canada.
Now, tell me, from a local perspective, what is the diocese doing in light of his death now?
So we've sent out an instruction to the parishes, basically very simple. It's have a picture of the Holy Father, often sometimes to be ordained with a black ribbon just to denote the person had passed, to encourage prayers. Of course, we're in the octave of Easter, and so we're waiting until the College of Cardinals decides on the actual date of his funeral. And then after that, we would be offering a public mass for that recognition after his funeral. But leading up to it, encouraging the faithful to attend mass, to pray for the repose of his soul, and also to offer up individual prayers.
Hmm.
A number of people have been phoning the pastoral center today and wondering, is there mass? And so I'll be celebrating the 5 o'clock evening mass or afternoon mass at St. Mary's Cathedral today. And yes, joining with many of the faithful and encouraging us to be united in prayer for the repose of his soul.
Now, obviously the question on everybody's mind is what now for the Catholic Church?
Well, now it's sometimes it's been depicted in movies, most recently The Conclave, but
Yeah.
what is taking place right now is that the dean of the College of Cardinals has sent a letter to all the cardinals inviting them to come to Rome for the conclave. Now that will take place after the funeral. But
Mhm.
leading up to the funeral, there are what's known as general congregations, the meeting of the cardinals as they are in Rome preparing for the funeral. They'll be discussing issues touching upon the church and the world, just to get a sense that, where is the Holy Spirit leading them in choosing the next successor of Peter. So this is a process that is underway, as well as the preparation for his funeral, which is obviously something that he himself changed just recently. As early, I think, as November, he has simplified the actual
Mm.
ritual for the funeral mass of a pope. He's just going to be laying in state in a simple coffin. And then after the mass, funeral mass, he's going to be interred in St. Mary Major Basilica, which is outside of the Vatican City. And it's because he's had a great devotion to our Blessed Mother there and would often go and pray before he would go on an apostolic trip or visit and do the same when he returned. So I think in the life of the faithful, his devotion to our Blessed Mother also will speak to a lot of people. Um, so those are just some of the general things that are sort of going to be unfolding in the next number of days. But
Hmm.
normally there are 9 days of mourning, and then the funeral mass will be planned, and then following that, then the conclave.
Now, the conclave, as you mentioned, it's been the subject of a lot of books and movies and stuff. What's the speculation out there of who is the leading candidates to become the next pope?
Well, I think that's always in the mind of God and the Holy Spirit. But I think with his nomination as a bishop, a cardinal outside of Europe, I think many would be open to and possibly considering that there would be cardinals from some of the countries, maybe in Southeast Asia, maybe Africa, possibly.
Hmm.
It is a universal church, and we have that representation in the College of Cardinals. And I think it will then sort of be the discussion leading up to the conclave that they'll be seeing what are the areas that the church, through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, need to continue to promote. And maybe some of it is the legacy of Pope Francis, but maybe it isn't. And so maybe there's Holy Spirit's calling us in a new way.
Uh, so, you mentioned a couple of different geographic areas. I'm also curious from I don't know what the word is, maybe political standpoint. Like, where do you see the church headed? Like, we know that Pope Francis was fairly progressive in the direction he was taking the church. Do you see that continuing, or do you see maybe a return to traditional Catholicism?
Well, I think what we'll see is that, the values of the gospel as reflected in whatever candidate will be important. A commitment to the poor, to work for justice, to ensure, that the life and the sanctity of the church, the celebration of the sacraments are central to its life and its mission. So I think there may be in this conclave honest discussions as to where is the Holy Spirit leading the church at this time.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think to not necessarily avoid, the labels of progressive or conservative, but really to sort of say, okay, authentically, where is the Holy Spirit guiding the church through the successor of Peter? And we have to entrust this in many ways to a human, but also a divine process in which these cardinals will come together
Mm.
and in prayer and discernment select that candidate that they see as the one that the church is asking us to lead over 1 billion Catholics, more than that in the world. So it's a very important task for the cardinals in choosing the next successor of Peter.
One last thing for you, Bishop. I'm just curious of how you reacted to the news this morning.
Well, thank you for asking that. I think it's like anyone who's lost a loved one. I was in shock at the beginning of the day, and I think I'm still processing it as I'm taking many interviews, and people are asking me similar to what you have. Um, I think what I'm seeing is that his death on Easter Monday is almost providential in the hand of God. And I hope that it can bring some sense of consolation that, we celebrated this great feast of Easter and the resurrection and our belief in the gift of everlasting life. And here, Pope Francis is taken from this earth here on Easter Monday as we celebrate this great feast of the resurrection. So
Mm.
I'm taking some consolation in that, and that somehow this was in the mind and the plan of God that Pope Francis would be taken on this Easter day, this resurrection. So, would all of us face that at the end of our life, that we die in such a great solemnity and a great feast of Easter?
All right, wonderful. Thanks so much, Bishop, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much.
All right, that was Bishop William McGrattan of the Calgary Roman Catholic Diocese of Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Catholic Spotlight. Thanks for joining us today.